We're four friends who live across the globe
and share a love of Bon Appétit's YouTube channel.
So we came together to bring you our thoughts on what BA serves up.
And try our hands at recreating their dishes.
Welcome to Pod Appétit!
Hey, it's me, Meg, and I'm here to make Chris's spicy chicken katsu sandwiches. Katsu is short for katsuretsu, which is derived from the English word cutlet. Katsuretsu, cutlet. You can kind of hear it if you squint. This is just one of many English loanwords that have been adopted into the Japanese language. So what Chris makes in this video and what I'm about to make could also be called torikatsu, tori meaning chicken. Another very popular type of katsu is tonkatsu, which is pork. I would say tonkatsu is more ubiquitous in Japan than torikatsu. If you live in the Bay Area like I do, I highly recommend Stone Mill Matcha in the Mission District. They have an excellent tonkatsu sandwich. It's honestly the best I've had outside of Japan. As I've mentioned on this podcast at least a couple of times, I used to live in Japan. I lived there for a year, teaching English through the Japan Exchange and Teaching Program. So shout out to any fellow Jets out there. So I was racking my brain for any sort of story or memory I may have had around katsu when I lived in Japan. And although I have a lot of food stories, nothing around katsu in particular. So I thought I'd share a story about a different fried food. So one day I was at work and my coworkers brought me this tray of food and it looked like karaage, another Japanese dish you might be familiar with. It's essentially fried chicken. So it looked like little chicken nuggets to me pretty much. So I took one, I put the whole thing in my mouth and I bit down and I just crunched on something really hard and inedible. And my coworkers kind of laughed at me and they told me it was octopus beak, or more specifically, the meat surrounding the octopus beak. And I was just supposed to nibble on it, which I had no idea. Aside from the not so great octopus beak, I love a whole bunch of different types of Japanese food, but it's not surprising to me at all that Bon Appetit would choose to make katsu because it's very approachable for the average American viewer. I mean, it's breaded fried chicken. What's not to love, right? And they make it even more familiar for the American viewer by incorporating spiciness, the spiciness of Nashville-style hot chicken. So I would say it's a bit of a fusion cuisine, although I think BA intentionally avoids using that word. It's maybe a little passé these days. And Chris even debates what to call it because it's definitely somewhere in between traditional Japanese style of katsu and an American fried chicken sandwich. Chris also warns the audience over and over about the amount of cayenne. He says it seems insane, it just seems wrong. I believe he says it's terrifying and absurd as well, but he also says just to trust him. I will try to trust in Chris, but I also want it to be spicy. I'm honestly a little disappointed if something advertises itself as spicy and then doesn't deliver. I'm like, hey, what gives? I wanted it to be spicy. I'll be disappointed if it's not. So that's probably what I'm most looking forward to is, will this deliver on the classic Japanese katsu plus spiciness? Let's head into the kitchen. All right, I'm here in the kitchen. I've got all my ingredients and utensils laid out to make spicy chicken katsu sandwiches. First is making the remoulade sauce, I believe Chris called it. So I'm going to combine the mayonnaise, pickles, hot sauce, and salt in a bowl. I've just put the 1/4 cup of mayonnaise in. I love mayonnaise. I know that LJ and Amanda and I are all aligned on this. We're mayo fiends. I'm going to start dicing up the bread and butter pickles. Chris said that he's a bread and butter guy, and I'm a bread and butter gal. Personally, I really love the combo of the vinegar and the sweetness. 1/4 cup of pickles, in you go. I usually try to get the specific product that Bon Appetit recommends if it's something I have to go to the store and buy anyway. But in this case, I did not get Crystal hot sauce because I just recently purchased a brand new bottle of Louisiana hot sauce. The ingredients look essentially the same to me, so I'm going to go with the Louisiana style hot sauce. Ooh, I can smell the spiciness. Okay, the recipe says season with salt. I guess that's the 1 teaspoon kosher salt. Yeah, okay. I don't know, 1 teaspoon seems like a lot. Oh no, that teaspoon of salt is for the dredging flour mixture. Okay, glad I checked that. Mixing up the spread. Giving it a little stirry stir. This looks a lot more watery than what Chris made. I'm going to add some more mayonnaise. Oh no, I just realized that's an extreme amount of sauce, especially considering I was planning to have this recipe. Ooh, that's definitely not half. Guess I'm rolling with it. Next, combining the flour mixture. 1/2 cup flour. Where's my tablespoon? I know I got that out. Hello, tablespoon. New tablespoon. Wow, okay, actually measuring out the cayenne now, Chris said it seemed like an insane amount, and I didn't get that impression from the video, but actually doing it now, yeah, it's an insane amount. I guess I'll just have to trust him like he said to. I literally used up all my cayenne. In goes 2 teaspoons garlic powder, and now the teaspoon of salt. Give it a mixy mix. Even just the smell of the cayenne coming off of this bowl is spicy. Like, it's making my face and throat burn a little bit. I wasn't afraid of this recipe before, but now I kind of am. Ooh. Jeez. Pro tip, don't inhale the cayenne powder. Okay, whisk egg and remaining 1/4 cup hot sauce in a bowl. Commence whisking. Too many things on my workstation. I wish I had the magic of BA to just bring me my perfectly measured ingredients in nice little bowls and have them taken away and cleaned up. Wouldn't that be great? A girl can dream. Okay, putting 2 cups of panko on a large plate. I definitely think panko is the superior breadcrumb. It has an unrivaled crispiness that is just mwah. Perfect. I love it. And did you notice in the video it said that panko was cooked with electrical current or something crazy like that? I have to look up what all that is about. It might explain how it always seems to be kind of staticky and clings to the bag in your hands and all that. Okay, now the fun part. I get to pound them chicken thighs. Honestly, this was one reason why I chose this recipe. It's really fun to pound meat. Yeah, okay, that was definitely an innuendo. All right, what was I saying? In the culinary setting, it's true though, and I thought it might be interesting audio. I don't know, it might be terrible. We'll see. Several minutes of pounding later. So the recipe and Chris in the video say to pound it to about a 1/2 inch thick or even to a 1/4 inch. I tried to go a little bit thinner because I tend to be a little bit paranoid about undercooking my raw meats. And so then I sort of overdo the cooking and I have sort of overdone chicken or pork or beef. My thought process is that by pounding these chicken thighs a little bit thinner, I'll feel more confident that they've cooked through fully. All right, moving on to dredging the chicken. Dip chicken into flour dredge, turn to coat, shake off any excess, dip into egg mixture until coated. Shaking off excess, dredge in panko, turning to coat. I think I can handle that. So I am cooking up only 2 thighs today, so I shouldn't have to do all this in batches. You know what? I am regretting not getting that crystal sauce now. This doesn't quite have that same rich red, almost brick red, robust color that crystal sauce seemed to have. Oh well, maybe next time. If there is a next time for these sandwiches, we'll see. It's so spicy. Oh no, oh no. Panko all over the floor. Okay, I'm gonna let the olive oil heat up in the pan while I clean up my station a little bit. Olive oil is usually my default cooking oil anyway, so I was definitely on board when Chris suggested using that. I know it can be a little bit strong. Sometimes that olive flavor is a bit too forward, but I don't know. I usually find it to be a nice complement to just about anything. Okay, the oil's not quite there yet. I gave it a little test and it's not quite to the right temperature, so I'm going to quickly chop up the lettuce. Like Chris, I am also not a fan of iceberg lettuce because it really doesn't have a flavor. It's like water. It imparts nothing flavor-wise to a dish, IMHO. But he's absolutely right about the texture and the crunchy crispiness to sort of add another textural element to the sandwich. So yeah, I think this is going to be good. The classic shreddus. It looks nice at any rate. And I think I hear the oil sizzling, so let's go. Oh shoot, I even forgot to set a timer. Okay, 3 minutes per side. You know what? I'm going to be a nice wifey and make a different version of the remoulade for my husband because he, A, does not like bread and butter pickles, and B, is trying to cut back on spiciness. So maybe this wasn't the best dish to make after all. But anyway, I'm going to make a different sauce/condiment with mayo, dill pickles instead of bread and butter pickles, and maybe half the hot sauce. Yeah, some chicken foley. Yeah. Whoops. Okay, that was 3 minutes. Time to flip them over. Okay, whereas Chris described his katsus as looking maybe a little bit overly brown, I had the opposite problem here. There's not much color to the first side of the katsu that I cooked, which definitely confirms that the oil was not as hot as it should have been when I first put it in. So I think this second side will brown up a lot nicer. I might even flip it once more to maybe try to get a little bit of color on the first side. We'll see. As long as it's cooked, maybe I won't bother. Got my splatter guard out. This is why I don't like frying things. It gets oil everywhere. Turning down the temp a little bit so it doesn't brown too much. Oh yeah, that other side looks much nicer. So even though the recipe didn't call for it, I did end up flipping the chicken once more to try to get a little bit more color on that first side. I checked the temperature and it's up to temp. Like I said, paranoid about undercooked meat. So yeah, I'm taking the chicken off the stove now and putting it on a wire rack. And then it's sandwich making time, baby. So I did get some milk bread from a Japanese grocer called Mitsuwa. I love milk bread. It has a subtle sweetness to it, kind of like a Hawaiian roll, like they mentioned in the video. And it is so soft and pillowy. I think it'll be a great contrast to the crispy lettuce and the crispy panko. I'm spreading the mayo on both sides of the bread, and I'm going to probably be pretty generous with this because, again, it's mayo. I fucking love it. Top with chicken and shredded lettuce. Okay, the cutlet's a little big for the bread, but it's okay. It'll be fine. Well, this looks great already. I'm going to try to replicate what they did wrapping the sandwich in the parchment paper. This is kind of the classic way of serving the sandwich. I don't know. I might not be able to get it to work out right. Stay tuned. It worked pretty well, actually. Could have been a whole lot worse. And now, the moment of truth. What's it taste like? Is it going to be as spicy as I fear? Hopefully, it won't annihilate me with the spiciness level. I don't know. It looks great. All right, here we go. Okay, the flavor is really nice. Definitely not too spicy for me. In fact, I think I'm going to have to side with Andy and say I could have kicked up the spiciness a little bit more even. The crispiness of the lettuce is so necessary. I actually think that there could have been a little bit more textural elements to this. The bread is so soft. It's so soft. And the katsu isn't quite as crispy as I was expecting. I think I could have pounded it even thinner. And again, I should have started it with the oil hotter, which would have made it just crispier overall. Maybe I would toast the bread next time. I think that might be a welcome element. I don't know. The flavor is great. I'm loving it. The creaminess of the mayo sauce and just that little bit of sweetness from the pickles and from the bread to contrast the spiciness. And there was a little bit of added salt here and there. I think is a great flavor combo. I would make it again, being sure to make that katsu extra crispy and possibly toasting the bread. I'm very pleased to announce that I have a special guest with me here today. It is my husband, Evan, and he tried the spicy katsu chicken sandwich. So I thought I'd ask him what he thought of it.
I really enjoyed it. It was a tasty sandwich. I liked the panko and all the crispiness on the chicken.
You said a very nice compliment in regards to restaurant quality.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it was just a very fancy sandwich. If I ordered a sandwich and got that, I'd be super excited. I think it would be, the kind of sandwich that I would expect to get at a like a really nice kind of hip restaurant.
What do you think of the spiciness? In the video, they went on and on about how spicy it was. I didn't find it that spicy.
Well, as you know, I'm pretty sensitive to spicy stuff these days. Haven't been eating a lot of spicy food. And I thought it was a really nice spicy level. It didn't build up and make me suffer, but it had like a good spicy flavor to it. It's tasty.
Awesome. Any last thoughts?
Thanks for making a sandwich.
You're welcome. And I don't know if the mic picked it up, but it looks like our cat Penny wanted to be a guest as well. So you might have heard some meowing. That was her.
I noticed that you didn't make a sandwich for Penny.
Maybe that's why she's yelling at me right now. Sorry, Penny.
It's kind of unfair.
Next time. Okay, welcome back. I am here with the lovely Justine.
Oh, what an introduction.
And we're here to talk about, of course, the katsu sandwiches.
Oh my God, how did they turn out? Great, wonderful, the best.
I almost have to go with the best. I feel like I have to get to a certain point where I can't just say I like everything because it'll lose meaning, right? It'll be like, is there anything Meg doesn't like? But I truly, really liked these. I thought using chicken thighs was great. I mentioned on an earlier episode that I've thought I need to give dark meat a second try. And this is actually one of the first times in a long while that I've prepared dark meat. It's really nice and juicy. I forgot how juicy it was. And as Chris mentioned in the video, it's got that fattiness that you don't really get with breast. And I think I cooked it well enough that the fat was pleasantly rendered and just tasty. I would really only change a couple of things if I made it again. One is that the bread is very soft, and think I would like to toast it just to add a little bit more texture. Like the bread was so soft that it almost like disappeared. And I just wanted a little bit more substance to the bread.
Sorry for my ignorance. I'm like, does the bread really have to do with sort of the katsu experience? Like, how is it different from using a milk bread than like a bun? Because then I know you're just making like a fried chicken sandwich.
And this is just my interpretation. I'd say that the importance of a milk bread to a katsu sandwich is just that that's the classic way to prepare it. And that if you were to have a different vehicle for the katsu, a different type of bread, yeah, it might fall closer into just like a traditional chicken sandwich. Also, I think that something the milk bread really adds is a certain element of sweetness. So you get that sweet contrasting with the savory and the spiciness of the chicken. They mentioned in the video that Hawaiian rolls might be a good option, and I could see that for those similar reasons, the soft texture and the sweet flavor.
What it reminded me of is when they did the back-to-back with Michael Shannon, and they did the hot chicken, right? And they served that on the side with like white bread, and that was to like balance out the hotness.
I do definitely think that this particular recipe was a marriage of the Japanese katsu with the American Nashville hot chicken. And you definitely wouldn't get something this spicy in Japan. So in addition to that, I think that this maybe leans a little bit more toward an American style hot chicken.
Sweet. Yeah. Do you like things super hot?
I
Meg?
do. So
Yeah? Could it have been hotter?
It could have been hotter, actually. That's one of my other comments on this, is that Chris really set the expectations high for the spiciness. He's like, it's absurd. It's insane. It's so much cayenne. And while it is a lot of cayenne, it's just a dredging mixture. So obviously not all of that goes on to the chicken. In fact, not a whole lot of it does. And the remoulade wasn't particularly spicy. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say I was disappointed with the spiciness, but as someone who does like spicy and was anticipating something super spicy, it definitely could have been spicier.
Oh.
That is one thing, though. They used Crystal hot sauce, and I used Louisiana hot sauce. That's the name of the brand. So I don't know if there's a big spiciness differential between these two. They seemed almost identical to me ingredients wise. So maybe the Crystal hot sauce does add a spiciness that the Louisiana didn't.
Oh, wait. I had a very important question.
Yes.
Did you give yourself a cinnamon bun after you completed this?
I definitely would have rewarded myself with one had I had one, but I did not have any cinnamon buns on hand, unfortunately.
We gotta get this girl a cinnamon bun.
Get me a cinnamon bun. Yeah. I need to reward myself. Maybe when this episode airs, I'll go get myself a cinnamon bun.
Yes. Instagram it. It's happening. I had another question about the ingredients. Meg, what are other types of lettuce?
So you have butter lettuce, you have romaine lettuce. Those are the two that I can think of off the top of my head.
That aren't iceberg.
That aren't iceberg. There are many others, though. And of course, there's many other just greens in general that I find preferable to lettuce. But
But this worked with the classic shreddis, as they call them.
It did. I was very much in Chris's camp of that. I really don't think it imparts anything flavor-wise. Iceberg lettuce is so boring to me, but it's there for the crunch, for the layer of crunch, not the layer of sadness. And
You're right. Never forget.
And it does have
R.I.P.
that. Yeah. And it does have that nice cooling element. Had the sandwich been hotter, I think the cool iceberg lettuce would have been even more pivotal. But I did like the textural quality of it.
Mouthfeel and all.
Yeah. Mouthfeel.
I have a cooking question. So when he made the chicken, he said you don't have to change out the oil in your pan once you change out your chicken that you're frying up. Whenever I cook things and I, am doing something similar, I'm always questioning, do I need to add more oil in the pan and wait for that to heat up, or just what is the proper technique?
So I think that in this particular video, the relevance was that if you didn't change the oil, there would be the potential that there might be the brown bits of the breading from the previous batch of katsu that continue to cook and brown just because they've been in the pan a while. And one might want to change the oil between batches because otherwise you could get those dark pieces on your second batch of katsu. More in general, I think that oil comes into play if you don't want to transfer flavor from what you cooked from one thing to the next, because that oil can pick it up. What you mentioned, sometimes you use so much of the oil that you need more for the rest of the recipe in order to cook it properly. And also just adjusting the heat in general, because obviously the oil is going to retain the heat, and if you don't want something to cook too quickly. But I don't think that would be a swapping out oil situation. I think that would just be a managing temperature situation.
Gotcha. Yeah, to me, it's a bit of a tricky thing that probably you learn more with practice, because it's not necessarily something that they say in a generic recipe.
Mm-hmm. I've definitely encountered recipes like making fajitas, for instance, where it says cook the vegetables in oil, like your green peppers and your onion, and then take them out of the pan, wipe down pan, put in more oil, heat up your meat. And I almost always ignore this because I'm like, I don't care if it has the leftover vegetable flavor. If there's little pieces of vegetable that remain that get overly cooked, who cares? You know, there might be something a little bit more technical that I'm missing there, but I think it's something that sort of home cooks maybe don't need to be that concerned about.
Awesome. That's some good tips. It's hard. I'm like, cooking is hard.
And again, just caveat, that's just mostly my experience. I'm not an expert cook.
Yeah, but I mean, that's where you get it from, is experience.
Mm-hmm.
Say, like, if you're Amanda and I just questioning every single thing that happens in front of you, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you can get really on a micro level with oil if you want to, especially with like oils that have a higher smoking point versus oils that have less flavor. I think I probably use more olive oil than I should. Or, you know, there's other oils that impart less flavor, but I happen to like olive oil in general. And even with recipes that say to use less flavorful cooking oil, I'm still like, olive oil. Do you like spicy things, Justine?
I always tell this to people. I'm like, where I'm from, Massachusetts, there is no spice. Spice doesn't exist. I did not grow up consuming spicy things, so my palate is not tuned for it, you know?
That's another reason why I found this recipe interesting, is because Japanese cuisine generally does not have spice. It's a very sort of mildly flavored, subtly flavored cuisine, if I had to generalize.
Really?
So, yeah. So adding the spice I found to be a welcome addition for me, at least. And often if there's some sort of heat in Japanese food, it's not always the same kind of chili heat. But I liked that marriage of the spiciness that I enjoy with the Japanese style katsu. It's really good.
Yeah, it seems like a perfect little sandwich for you.
Yeah. Oh, man. I loved it. I've said before that I would remake certain recipes, but this one, I was actually just thinking about it the other day and looking at my photos and pining after katsu sandwiches.
You might put it in your personal recipe book.
Yeah, I think I might have to.
Man, so we already know. Like, normally, I feel like we end these with like, "Would you make it again?" But you're already like, "Yeah, I've made it like 12 times already." I wake up, I have it for breakfast. Like,
yeah, just chicken katsu 24/7.
Yeah. Who are you, Molly?
Not yet. Someday.
Thanks for listening to Pod Appétit, a Bon Appetit fan cast.
We'd love to hear from you, so find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest at pod_appetit.
And on Facebook at Pod Appétit Podcast.
You can also email us at podappetitpodcast@gmail.com and find all of our episodes on our website, podappetitpodcast.com.
Until next time, the test kitchen is closed.
What podcast brings you true stories of exceptionally smart and insanely dumb crimes every week?
Dumb and Busted, obviously.
But Hannah, where's your one-stop shop if you want to hear about a killer nurse, a pervy arsonist, or a group of hella old dudes breaking into a vault?
Dumb and Busted. Allison, come on, seriously? We host the show together.
Okay, last question. Where can I go if I need to hear the #1 song of 1999, I Want It That Way?
What? The Backstreet Boys album Millennium? How did we even get on this tangent?
Oh, okay. Sorry for being the only one who's ever fallen victim to their tight harmonies and timeless songs. Anyway, please listen and subscribe to Dumb and Busted on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Crime you later!